I love to hate North Idaho. It's a love-hate, but I have one goal, and one goal only, is to kill one big bull in North Idaho, and then I'll retire. Welcome to the end of the public land hustle. It's been a long ride. This is my September from start to finish. This is my 5th year elk hunting, and long story short, I basically tried to get a tag in southeast Idaho, and I was late to the game. The online system was kind of a shit show trying to get a tag in North Idaho this year. Thankfully, I was able to acquire a tag right at the end, but my only choice was the Panhandle. So coming back to the Panhandle, 3rd time, not my first choice, but I think everything happens for a reason. It's going to be Panhandle 2022. 2022, we're all packed up. Let's hit the road. We're going to go find our boy. And I'll introduce y'all when we get there. Check it out, like a game of Tetris. Got everything in here. And this time, see what that says right there? I have a soft spot for North Idaho. I really love it, and I also kind of hate it. I love it because it's big, it's beautiful, it's steep, it's green, it's lush, and there's really nowhere I've been in the continental US that reminds me of North Idaho. It's got a feel that is different, and when you're in the big, deep North Idaho timber, I've never seen anything like it. I hate it because it is so hard. North Idaho has kicked my ass time in and time out. The elk are around, but they're hard to consistently stay on. We're hunting with my good buddy Tyler here. You might remember Tyler from when Tyler and I put a whooping on Jake and Dan at Top Pin.
Hey, what's up?
Tyler's a good hunter, good shot, and we were able to link up for a few days and go chase these bulls. We're going to bring you guys along, have an amazing trip. Tyler said that it usually doesn't take more than 48 hours to get a bull down. So
that's not true.
So it's morning one. Let's go. Guys, Tyler and I just came across some fresh sign, some hot droppings, and I wanted to show you what bullshit looks like. Yeah, it's just like that bull's probably 4 to 8 hours away from us, so we're gonna keep looking. But that's big bullshit. But the elk are difficult to hunt. As Dan likes to say, he cut his teeth in North Idaho elk hunting, and if you can hunt them in North Idaho, you can really hunt them anywhere. And I really believe that. I haven't hunted every state, but I've hunted most of them, and North Idaho is level 10 elk hunting. Midday, Tyler and I just got done with a heavy strategy session. I realized we haven't found anything. I don't really ever do this, but desperate times. And I think this stuff is really for guys that can't grow beards, but like Dan. But we're gonna put a smear on. You want a smear, Ty? Oh yeah. Tyler is a great partner to have in the field. He's a paramedic by trade and a seasoned dude in the mountains. And Tyler's hunting style, I wanted to let Tyler kind of lead because he had more hunting experience than me. And Tyler's hunting style is basically to kind of bomb in. Like there's no feeling out the edges. He's down into these bottoms pretty quick. We were gonna run out a long ridge line, and we hit this first ridge line and found elk on our first big hunt of the day. It started with a, "Did you hear that?" And Tyler said no, and I thought I heard just the faintest of bugles. We got to the end of this long ridge, it dove off a point, and it was a long ways down this point. We got closer, and a rut fest started developing. We started hearing bugle after bugle after bugle, and it was like a crescendo ascending. We had 3 or 4 bulls going at noon. Midday madness, as the bugler would call it. Middle of September, midday madness. Tyler and I got into a bull. We started a calling sequence.
So far, we've had a really nice hike this morning, and we've sent out 150 bugles.
A healthy amount.
And got 0 responses.
Yeah, I got it on tape. It'll come out on our VHS this spring. That was a bull, dude. That's the bull I heard earlier.
Probably.
I think it's over here, yeah.
But it's hard to tell. He was
Pretty lazy.
well, it's noon, so
Yeah, I mean, he was doing what we were doing.
he's bedded and he's just lazily bugling from his bed.
If we could shoot a bull in here, dude, this is trophy country.
Sure. We got a bugle to chase.
Downhill, I think.
Down.
I think he was a little downhill. Goes back and forth, and before you know it, I heard footsteps trampling. Those footsteps trampling were a really nice looking satellite bull that we drew into 25 yards, and that satellite bull just kept his vitals behind a tree. Now Tyler and I were kind of close to each other, and he got to his hang up spot and he was done. That was an amazing encounter, and Tyler and I were off to a great start. Hey guys, my boy, my Sherpa, my man with the boots on the ground called in a bull. You probably didn't see footage, but there was a bull at like 30 yards with his vitals covered, and he came in silent on us. It was a satellite bull, a 5-point or something. A nice bull. He looked healthy for sure. Cool thing is we have 3 bulls in here for sure. Kind of like all where they're supposed to be, really. There's a bull in the bottom that kind of sounds like a mega bull. He was at 30 yards. Just didn't have a shot. I tried to manufacture a shot. I think he was hung up. You think he would have came in anymore? Hard to know. I needed him to move because I didn't have a shot.
Yeah, I think he was where he wanted to see something and just didn't see it. He didn't run off like a freight train through the brush, so, and I think we called at him a couple more times, but I think he just had enough of whatever we were. He didn't like it. Things have gotten a little quiet, so we're gonna just hang out and wait for hopefully something to kick up in an hour or so.
That evening, we got back on top of the knob and we located other bulls that we found in this really big drainage, but they were close enough to us that we could get to them, but it was so late in the evening that we had to put it off until the next day. Tyler and I decided to separate for the next couple days. We wanted to be mobile, cover the area, and see where we could locate elk. I was able to get on elk back-to-back days. The first time I had a good opportunity, I had hunters up on the ridge. I had an elk that was bugling at the hunters, and I was in between them. I crept over into the next micro drainage. I was probably getting within the red zone of that elk, and the wind swirled on me. That elk went quiet, and I felt like that was a good opportunity that got burned just to fickle winds. What do? The wind was good until it wasn't, and I got burned, and that elk went quiet. Fast forward to the following day, Tyler and I were again separate. I was approaching this drainage, but I was gonna kind of high side it and get into it from another area. Little update from the bush here in one of the coolest places. Elk hunting just brings you places you would never see, and I love that. Look at this campsite real quick. Old growth, spring nearby, North Idaho at its finest. What happened? I just called in a bull. I think you've seen a little bit of the footage. It's probably crap, but hopefully you heard a bugle or two, and the bull just came in fast, came in my string. I wasn't ready as fast as I should have been. I seen his antler tips, I seen him. He was through the trees, and I didn't get it. I was actually hoping he was gonna hook around the trees, but he didn't. Elk hunting is pretty fickle. You gotta play your cards right. A lot of lessons get learned the hard way, and I just keep racking them up. Get set up faster. I'm gonna get some water here. There's definitely water in the area, but there's not water everywhere. I actually ran out twice already, so we'll go load up some water and keep on doing the public land hustle. It ain't easy. Keeps bringing me to places like this. I'll keep coming back. This water's probably safe, but I'm gonna filter it anyway. This is my favorite way to filter water. Convince me otherwise. Don't tell me SteriPen either. SteriPens work really well, but I don't like the idea of having something that I have to charge extra. I've been drinking like 3 to 4 liters of water on these hard hiking days. This was high elevation for North Idaho, basically as high as you can get. And I heard another midday bugle. Shortly after, I think I got off the phone with Dan. Dan and I got one of our few check-ins where we had the opportunity to hear, hey, how's your hunt going? Next thing you know, I was busting out my little green demon call, and I had a bull drawing to me. I was excited. It was semi-open, which is so rare in North Idaho. If you've hunted there, 40-yard shots are uncommon, but this was an area where I could have shot 40 yards. Next thing you know, this bull just came in fast. I was not ready as quickly as I should have been, and I really thought this bull was gonna circle on me. I thought he was gonna circle, and I thought I was gonna see his antler tips coming over this hill, and he just disappeared over the hill, never to be seen again. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have got a little further forward, and I would have had a sub 35-yard shot at a nice satellite bull. Another opportunity, new area, 3 days of hunting, and I would say 3 solid encounters. Now, the way we had it worked out, Tyler was gonna hunt with me for 4 or 5 days, and then he had to get back to his real job. This time I had to make a decision. Should I stay or should I go now? And I kind of wanted to stay, but the other part of me was like, hey, get up and go hunt with Dan's dad, Rod. After talking with Dan, Dan's like, Rod's consistently on bulls, dude. Here's how I would hunt the area. Here's what Rod's doing. I think you need to get up there. Part of me really wanted to go hang out with Rod and just kind of see some of Dan's old haunts. I knew the area, but not that well. And knowing that Rod was hearing bulls daily, I bombed up there. I was able to connect with Rod. He and I kind of put together a plan. Again, we're going to hunt solo, go separate ways, share camp, share intel, and do our best to see what we could stir up.
So I wanted to say just from the get-go that I've hunted these North Idaho elk woods with my son. This is my 15th year now. This is probably my last year of hunting here. I wanted to drop a little knowledge bomb from getting old and being able to do this long on hunters that are going to hunt North Idaho. So the number one thing that I want to say to you is there are bulls, and you will hear bulls, and you can find bulls. But this is by far and away the brushiest place to hunt elk, probably next to the rainforest in western Washington and western Oregon in the continental United States. There's just so much brush here. You have to be able to overcome fighting the brush 8 hours, 10 hours a day, multiple days in a row, and the frustration of being 80 yards from a huge sounding bull just screaming at you. It gets dark and you don't get a shot because there's so much brush around you. At 65 years of age, I think I've done my time up here. I need to go somewhere where it's more open and I don't have to drop into the steep canyons as much and fight the brush going down and coming out. The other thing is, if you're going to hunt North Idaho, you better be ready to hunt wet, because as soon as it rains in this brush, you're going to be soaked for 2 to 3 days after the rain until the rain evaporates off all the brush. So you're going to be 10 minutes from your camp, hiking down a trail, and you're going to have water sloshing in your boots. It's wet and it's hard hunting, but it's also very, very rewarding because you do hear elk, but it takes an entire catalog of knowledge of how to hunt these elk. You know, I just challenge anybody that wants to come try it to give it a try. And my motto is, and the local boys will tell you this also, if you can kill an elk in North Idaho in thick brush, you can kill an elk in any state. I firmly believe that. And I've hunted Montana, I've hunted Wyoming, I've hunted Idaho, I've hunted New Mexico. By far, in a way, this is the hardest place to hunt. So that's really all I have to say about that.
My best encounter in that area was basically to a T, where Dan and I had talked on the phone and he was like, hey, if you're not getting into elk, here's the play. Try this, take your dirt bike here, be silent, park it here, roll down this ridge. And this was kind of one of my spots that would always lift my self-esteem when I was getting beat up in North Idaho. And one evening I decided, I was like, hey, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get in there, stir things up and see what's happening. I parked my bike, hiked down the ridge, let out one locator bugle, and there were 2 or 3 bulls just like he had done it before. I dropped about a third of the way down this ridge, and me and this bull were going back and forth. We probably got 20 to 30 bugles. I thought I heard him raking at 60 to 75 yards, and that was kind of the end of that interaction, which is something that I've consistently had a hard time with in North Idaho. Is it's so thick that you can hear bulls, but rarely do you see bulls. And if you've seen them, you've done everything right to get them to you. And I've traditionally been pretty good at getting them to 30, 40, 50 yards where I see antler tips or I hear raking, but closing that final deal really feels to me like the last thing I need to get really good at to seal my deal in North Idaho. Guys, Rod is 66 years old. He's the exact same age as my dad. There's only so many years left in them legs. He's bone on bone in his knees, and it was inspiring to watch him crawl down the hill, get into tree stands, hunt creatively. He could only do what he could do, but you know what? He hunted from September 1st to September 30th. And shout out to him, like mad props. That is cool to see him at that age, still doing what he loves. And oh, by the way, there's a little rifle elk season where Rod's going to try to go stir up some bulls with Dan. So maybe we'll get to hear more on his story. But I had a good time hunting with Rod. Rod, I appreciate you sharing camp, dropping a little bit of North Idaho knowledge on me. And it was fun to be a part of a hunting camp with someone that had hunted so long in North Idaho and had so much to share. Now, on my way out of that spot to my next spot, which I will call my old haunts. This is where I have found elk on my own with no tutelage, basically looking for spots on maps and finding elk the hard way. I think Rod was a little bummed at me. He's like, dude, you're leaving elk. I know there's elk here. Why are you leaving? Like, hunt these elk. You can get it done here. And there's something in the back of my head, like I hadn't hunted here in 2 or 3 years There was a couple ridge lines I really wanted to run down, and there are a few bulls that kind of haunted my dreams. I don't know if you've ever had that before, but you've chased an animal or maybe never seen an animal or heard a vocalization or seen antler tips. You got to go scratch that itch. So that's what I did. I bombed up a little further north. I went to scratch that itch and met up with my buddy Josh Crawford. We ran a couple ridge lines, checked on the elk. Although we didn't run into people, it was a pretty busy area. There were no people, but there were also no elk. That was that. I got to scratch that itch. The monkey was off my back, and my buddy Josh Crawford, which this is the fourth part and the final part of my September hunt. He and I had communicated all elk season when we were trying to get together and hunt. And finally, we're like, dude, let's do it. We're hunting semi-close to home. Josh kind of has a program. He has spent a few years hunting in there, figuring it out. So I got to kind of hop on his back under his tutelage and hop into somewhere he had semi-figured out. We got in there, and this was different. It didn't feel like North Idaho, actually. It kind of felt like Colorado. It wasn't as thick. It was more arid, and there were certainly thick spots, but there were also like patches of, I think they were aspen, and it wasn't the big dense timber that I'm used to seeing in North Idaho. But oh, by the way, there were bulls, and there were a few different bulls that were bugling in there.
September 28th. It is way too warm. We're here with our buddy Josh. Hey. Josh is our guy. He's come to South Dakota with us a couple times. Right now. There's a bull like directly below us. So we're gonna and see what we can stir up. Basically, can't hold nothing back now. I think we should run the ridge down, get on his level, and then we should be able to like come into him. Yeah. What do you think? I think so. Just gotta get on his level. He's down a little way still. Yeah, but it's not that far. Probably 300-400 feet down. We're probably like 300-400 yards. We close the gap pretty fast. I think we're good. Yeah. There's two bulls around here too. Two bulls. It's game time. Let's go. Directly below us.
Me and Josh gave it our best for a couple days. We chased elk, we got on bugles, but these elk were educated and they were hard to get super close to. North Idaho is thick. Like I mentioned earlier, you can hear them, but if you can see them, you're probably shooting at them. We didn't see any elk in there. We got close to them, they would be vocal. How do I close that final step? What is the string I gotta pull on to pull that bull in? Or how do I get better at anticipating where that bull is gonna come to? These elk are smart. North Idaho is humbling. I wanted to wrap up with a couple lessons learned from getting my tail whipped in North Idaho. Elk hunting has really become a cherished time for me in the mountains. I know hunting means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For some people, it's time with friends and time with family. For others, it's making sure they get that tag punched. For others, there's a lot of reasons you could find yourself in the mountains or having any kind of tag in your pocket. But for me, and most recently, it's really time disconnected from technology, time spent in some of the wildest spaces and places that your boots can take you to. And every time I come back from elk season, I feel recharged, refreshed, and like my brain just got the reset button and I have some of my best ideas for the year. Now, North Idaho, I need to learn to close. Like a high school boy that's learning to close for the first time, that's kind of like the thing that needs to happen for me, except for elk hunting. All I really want in North Idaho is to get one big bull. That doesn't mean it needs to be a 350-inch bull, just one big mature bull. North Idaho bulls are a brand of their own. They don't always get the longest antlers, but they're thick, they're hard to hunt, and for that challenge, it keeps me coming back. So this was my third year in North Idaho. It left me feeling hungry, unfulfilled, and I got to close that chapter. We appreciate you for hanging out. Guys, we put a lot of effort into this channel. Do us a favor, subscribe. The Public Land Hustle has been a monster production. Subscribe. We got to get to 100K before this year is over. We appreciate you guys. That's a close on Archery Elk Hunting 2022.